All right. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the EMU Sprint 1 review, and shortly afterwards we will run the CORD Sprint 2 review as well, just sort of as part of the same session. So this was a 3-week sprint, which lasted, well, from the late September until now. And we accepted roughly 180, 190 points into the sprint, and we were able to finish only 102. There are a number of story points still in progress, but in general, this represents about 60% completion rate. So this is something that we'll probably have to address in following sprint planning, because we want to make sure we complete, most of the work that we take on. So with that, let's just dive directly into the various areas, and as usual, we will start with the platform. On the platform side, there were just minor enhancements. One of them was to add instrumentation for packet processors and packet requests to get better visibility of what's registered in the system, and to be able to get some accountancy for how much time is being spent in various packet processors. And to support this, we've added CLI commands as well as a GUI view, and Simon will demonstrate that later. On a core side, if Madan is there, do you want to give a report?
Sure. So on the core side, we presented the design for dynamic clustering in ONOS. So the key features are, so we will have a notion of a metadata store, a logical metadata store that will provide information about various cluster metadata. And we talked about how there will be a fixed number of partitions in this particular feature, and as nodes are added and removed, these partitions will be redistributed to ensure we have proper load balance, and also maintaining the right amount of availability and durability. So we talked about what are the options we have for this metadata store. And we discussed various options, and like basically the highlights there are, if your deployment already has an external metadata service like
that's fine. Someone just came online. That's
yeah. So if your deployment already has an external metadata service, like etcd or Zookeeper, this is something that should be extensible to support that. Additionally, we talked about how we can pin the metadata service to a static partition, as that is part of the ONOS cluster itself. And as we add and remove nodes, we basically add it around them. So the idea is that this particular partition that stations the metadata store will remain static. And additionally, I also did some work on how we can add and remove nodes from a single raft cluster. This is a sub-item in the larger problem space. While we are talking about like a partition data store, a sub-problem here is, if you have a single raft cluster, how can you add and remove nodes to it? So there is some good progress made there. There's still some issues to be addressed, but I think we are on the right track.
Great. Thanks, Madan. So on the northbound side, if Brian is there, do you want to give an update?
It's not here.
Brian's online, but it's not here in the room.
Okay. Is he available to speak? So if not,
mic is broken.
Is somebody tapping the desk? We have some noise going on. Okay.
It's probably Brian trying to fix his mic.
Yeah. Brian just says his mic is broken, so we can hear Brian type, but we can't hear him talk. That's interesting.
Okay. Well, why don't I take this, and if he joins, he can correct me. On the northbound side, there was well, first of all, we continued the incubation of the virtual network subsystem beyond what was done in Drake. And this included extending the subsystem to support a virtual network provider mechanism, similar to other mechanisms, which gives us a way to plug in different implementation of the virtual networks. As part of this, we also added support for event notifications, for also support for distributed store and store delegate. Now, this is only on the API. I want to make that clear. The implementation is of the whole subsystem is right now just partially done, primarily just the manager, but we've decided deliberately to defer ongoing work there so that we could instead focus our attention on intent domains, because the intent domains will actually be used as one of the substrates or potentially one of the virtual network providers. And so, Brian, are you there or still having issues? Okay, so so with respect to the intent domain subsystem, we had a review of this with the technical steering team, and we've decided that to adjust the scope of this so that we can focus on what's really important, which is the ability to work out the relationship between the single intent domain and its controller application. So what we've essentially done is eliminate the multi-domain mechanism, which was sketched out in Drake. Of course, that's been archived, so we can resurrect it when the time comes. And in the meantime, this allows us to strip away all of the inter-domain routing and various complexities associated with this. And instead, we could simplify the interfaces and just focus on the specific interactions of a single intent domain and the backing controller application, such as whether it's segment routing or potentially SDN/IP or some, reactive forwarding or whatever. So similarly, incubation work is going on a new resource manager, and if Sho is there, I can maybe let him give an update on this.
Sho is out today.
Oh, that's right, Sho is out. So
can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, sorry, I just had to rejoin. GoToMeeting wouldn't let me unmute. But I can give an update on the resource manager if you want.
Great. And if you can correct anything I said about the intent domain too, you can add to it.
That's fine. I mean, the objective is going to be able to run multiple applications that depend on the intent framework on top of different domains at different times for step one. And then we'll focus on how we could run these applications or different applications across multiple domains past EMU. But for the resource manager migration, we have a more generic resource manager that's capable of handling resources in the abstract. And this is to sort of replace and simplify the type-specific resource managers that we had across the core. There were 3 of them that we were targeting to change over. One is the device resource manager, which we've completed, thanks to Sho. The second is the link resource manager, and the third is the label resource manager. We were sort of unclear about some of the external dependencies on the label resource manager, so we thought rather than try to do all 3 at once, we'd do one at a time, learn sort of what the impact is, whether there's any sort of bugs or hiccups along the way, which there don't seem to be. And that's the plan going forward.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Do you want to continue on a Southbound, the work that you did?
Sure. So one of the things that we did, and this is actually, I think originally thanks to Charles, is we've always listened for OpenFlow connections on port 6633. This was sort of hard-coded into the OpenFlow protocol stack that we have. So what Charles took the initiative of was changing that over to 6653, which is the officially registered port for OpenFlow. But what we decided was there's going to be a lot of legacy OpenFlow implementations, Mininet instances, switches on 1.0 that we're still going to be looking to connect on 3.3. So now we listen on both, and it's actually configurable. So via the component config, you can change the port that the OpenFlow protocol listens on. You can listen on as many ports as you want. And the other thing that we did was we also updated Mininet to use 6653 as a default. If it's not specified, it will fall back to 6633 if it's unable to establish a connection on 6653. So that's probably a big change for people that are trying to connect controllers to, or switches to their controllers. Hopefully they won't notice anything at first, but eventually we'll probably want to try to phase out the 6633 by default. So it'll always be a configurable option though. And then the second thing is Andrea has been working on the controller config driver using OVSDB to get and set the controllers for the OpenFlow bridges. There's going to be a demo of this at the end, and Andrea is also going to describe a little bit more of the details that went into this. But the good news is that finally we'll have a way to retrieve the sort of controller list and amend or update the controller list from the OpenFlow, or from ONOS, rather than having to do it out of band.
Is that
We're using OVSDB switches, but the goal would be to have a netconf driver implementation and maybe some other protocols as well.
Is that OVSDB interface developed by Huawei, or just separate, different?
So we use the OVSDB protocol implementation that was provided by Huawei, but there are some additional methods that were added to update the controller lists.
Great. Any other questions on this? Okay, if not, then we can pass the torch over to Simon to speak about the GUI enhancements.
Yeah, hi, this is Simon. This sprint saw a lot of wiki document editing, and in conjunction with that, we created some archetypes to ease the process of creating either a custom view, a tabular style view, or a topology overlay. So the tutorials kind of work hand in hand with the archetypes. The links there take you to the pages so you can view them for yourselves if you'd like later. The topology overlay tutorial is still a work in progress. We didn't get that completed this sprint. Other work was on the device view. You can now set the friendly name for devices, and we'll demonstrate that later. And then we've also got a packet processors tabular view, as Thomas alluded to earlier. A couple of small things that we did as well. One was adding a microwave dish glyph to the library and fixing a bug. So a mixed bag. Any questions?
All right.
I take it to be no.
All right. Thank you, Simon.
Sure.
So on a miscellaneous side, do the respective authors want to provide an update on this?
Hi, this is Charles, and I will take this part. So in this sprint, we fixed 2 bugs. The first one is resulting in a redundant packet request is observed when using multiple instances. So and then the second one is related to empty instruction. And regarding IPv6, IPv6 moving slower than expected because I recently spent most of my time on Core Fabric. And in this sprint, 4 unit tests has been done, and there's still 1 remaining. And there is still 1 defect in IPv6 that results in flow installation failure, and that needs more investigation. So for these 2 remaining tests of IPv6, I guess I can finish it in the next sprint. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And also, one item that we didn't add on here was Andrea also, as his first project, he added ability to dynamically, or on start, load the initial component configuration, similar to what we have implemented in the past for network configuration. That's something that was also done. All right, Subin or Harry, do you guys want to take this one?
Actually, John's going to give an update on this.
All right, I can never guess who's going to be presenting.
I know.
You guys keep
Gotta
me
keep it
guessing.
interesting.
That's right.
So as far as test improvements, the first thing we did was try to refactor our tests to make them, I guess, more consistent. So if something fails, we have high confidence that it was actually an ONOS failure and not something with our test. As part of that, I refactored one of the AJ tests to be more in line with the Raft implementation, because it was originally written before we had Raft, and it was kind of modified to work with Raft, but not fully. We added some IPv6 VLAN hosts to our functionality topology, which were missing. And we started work on a Flow REST API test, and that is in progress. And then we also have a platform test using Docker. That's also in progress. For improvements to our test framework, some minor refactoring of the core test-on code. We're also now saving all the ONOS logs from every nightly run, which will make debugging easier. We also now just the flow of the tests is a little easier to write, so you can use loops and functions, and that'll be more fully supported. We also have a pause feature, and we're still investigating some traffic tools. Probably next sprint we'll start some implementation of those. And there's a couple of regressions that either happen in this sprint or some high severity bugs that haven't been resolved yet. One that we noticed this week was if we started Mininet with traffic before we start ONOS, it leads to some topology instability, and device mastership won't get correctly assigned. We also noticed that if you stop an ONOS instance, some of the default flows disappear, but if you bring that back up, then they reappear. So we're still looking into that. And then there's some regression on the intent throughput that happens, I believe, last sprint, but we haven't looked into, or we haven't addressed that yet. And then also, we noticed that after a link up or down, some intents get compiled with the wrong flows. And then at the bottom is a list of bugs open this sprint and bugs closed. And then the overall number of bugs in ONOS is 102.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
Yep.
Any questions on this area? Okay, if not, then we can move on to the deployments. And normally this would be something provided by Luca, but I think Luca's overseas, and I'm not sure whether he's going to be.
John will be talking to you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so we're moving forward with trying to deploy Cardinal on Internet 2. We had a lot of issues, mostly regarding in relation to the switches this time. So there was an issue on Brocade where we couldn't use flows of different priorities, so we had to make flows of the same priority. And then there's another issue on the Juniper switch, or multiple issues. One is it takes a very long time once we install the flow for that flow to show up in the flow stats reply. And then another issue is this one we're looking at right now, where you can't give up multiple outstanding barrier requests at the same time. It kind of becomes unresponsive at that point. So we're developing workarounds for those things so we can continue with that deployment. MLAD is also looking at upgrading their ONOS cluster to 1.2.3, and they're testing that in a test network before moving to production. And then with GN, there's a project called GN4 which they've initiated, which is kind of an internet exchange SDX type project, and they want to use SDNIP to provide SDX services. So that's like RAD exchanges, and also we have through virtual circuits on top of that, point-to-point virtual circuits. So there's a lot of development tasks that they'll be working on to support that, and then they're also working on deploying that in the lab and testing on their Corsa Dell and VK switches. One potential issue for this deployment is going to be that the intent framework still doesn't use the Flow Objectives API, and so it's hard to support intents on multi-table switches with hybrid pipelines. And there's also work moving forward with ClearNet in Korea in the test lab, as far as I understand. And then there's a conversation initiated with the ESNet to also do a deployment early next year with Corsa switches. And again, there's the same issue highlighted here about SSMP not using the Flow Objectives framework, so it's hard to work with multi-table pipelines. And then the final bit is that Luca has been at a number of different conferences talking about SDIP and deployments. And Susan.
All right. You ready for next slide?
Yeah, can you go forward 2 slides?
2?
Yeah.
No, sorry. No, it's fine. It means if we put in some more monitoring work in the infrastructure, so now we can monitor or getting alert from if a system or servers that we're running in the lab or the office have problems. That's it.
Okay.
For deployment.
Okay. Is anybody gonna cover this this deployments, or is that was covered by you, Jonah? I didn't quite.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. What was that?
yeah, I covered that.
Okay. All right. CORD. I presume you're gonna take that too, Jonah.
Do you want to sit over here, or sure. This is not long enough?
Yeah, there's CORD fabric work that I'll talk about, and then sort of John will take over on the rest of the things. So work started on the controller side since Charles joined, and he's done some nice work in moving the segment routing application, which we use to control the CORD fabric, to the new network config subsystem. So a lot of that work has already happened, and he continues to work on that. We also fixed a bug where the groups, OpenFlow groups and switches weren't being replicated over multiple instances of the controller. So we found and fixed that bug. And again, Charles did that work. On the switch side, Flavio and I have been working extensively to root out bugs in OFTPA. Our main goal is to, as soon as possible, get to the point where we can use the Act-On switches and OFTPA to do the basic fabric operation, that is rack-to-rack communication. And because AT&T chose to go with the 40G ports on the switches, we had to test 40G and also its breakout from 40G to 4x10Gs, and we've done that. That works. So the next, basically, the next 3 bullet points are about making that basic fabric work. And we have some bugs. We're working with Broadcom on that. We have done some testing with workarounds, and the workarounds work, but they're kind of hacky, and they didn't come from Broadcom. They came from Act-On and Big Switch. So we want Broadcom to fix those issues. So it's still a work in progress, but the hope is that by the end of the month we can get to the point where the basic fabric works. And then we can think about all the other add-ons to the basic fabric operation. That's all I have.
Thanks, Saurav. All right.
Yeah, so the rest of the work being done at ON.Lab, we've spent a lot of time extensively testing the OLT for the features that we need that we haven't yet tested. So as part of that, we've written tests for installing and updating groups in the OLT. We're able to add groups and meters into the system. These are open flow meters. But when we point flows to them, then we can't forward traffic through the OLT. So that's an issue that we need to go back to PMC and figure out what's going on there. And we still have a bug with the Q&Q support where we can't get packets through the OLT. So we're kind of compiling a list of issues that we need to talk with PMC about and understand if either we're doing something wrong or if it's a bug that needs to be fixed. And then we've also spent some time working on multicast support, which we need to support IPTV in CORD. So the DirecTV guys have contributed a lot of code on multicast, supporting IGMP and PIM protocols, and also ACORD implementation. So we want to leverage that code as much as possible, but we need, when we actually push flows to the switches, we need to do different things than what they want to do. And so part of this work is creating interfaces to kind of abstract out the goals from the Fortinet implementation, so that we can then put in our own Fortinet implementation for the different things that we need to do there. So Ali's been working on that while he's been overseas. And then also Ray's been working on the AAA app. This was the app that we used for the demo that was contributed by AT&T. So we spent some time cleaning that up, and one of the big changes we've been doing is adding support to connect to the radio server out of band, whereas before it used to be in band. So the AAA app would packet out packets into the network to try and find the radio server. Whereas in the real system, this is going to be running in the cloud somewhere, so we just have an out-of-band connection to it. There's been some progress on the VTN app for the virtual networking, so we can now create bridges on the compute nodes and create the tunnel ports there and connect to the nodes. And then finally, we got some initial requirements for the virtual router, which is the WAN uplink from CORD out to the rest of AT&T's network. And so it's looking like we'll probably have to support OSPF and IBGP to connect upstream. And so we're investigating how we're going to be able to support those in ONOS, probably using a similar solution to Atrium, where we have Quagga doing the protocols and getting the routes into ONOS and programming the switch that way.
Is this something that Saurabh, you're also doing something with AT&T about that wide area connectivity?
Yeah, I mean, it's all together, right? So it's Jono, me, Ali, Bill, Don, everyone.
Cool. So that's all.
All right. Thank you, John. Who wants to give an update on ACORD XOS? Okay.
This is Scott. I can.
Is Andy there? Well, this is Larry. I can do it if Andy's not there.
Perfect.
Yeah, configuration management is now complete. We have multiple configurations that makes it easy to jump in and build your own development environment or beginnings of one for CORD. We'll have probably multiple CORD configurations with and without OLT. The Tosca-based infrastructure is all there. I know we talked a lot about Yang. There's a side effort going on to work with Peter Lee from ClearPath to do a parallel Yang specification, but we do now have a fairly complete Tosca version. And by the way, Tosca is what Blue Planet from Sienna uses, which seems to be an example of how things fit nicely between what we're doing with XOS and Blue Planet. Auto-generating docs for that. Everything related to integration between XOS and OpenStack and upgrading to Kilo all seems to be done. I'm for last call, and we'll do a code freeze on Burwell next week, and I think essentially it's done. The last thing we've been waiting on is a Hello World service that works end to end to show people how to plug their services into XOS. Pretty much all.
Great, thank you, Larry. All right, Shrikant.
Yes, Thomas. Hi everyone, this is Shrikant from Ericsson. Yeah, in this sprint, we have focused on 3 areas of the ACORD user stories. One of them is enhancing the ONOS with few additional REST APIs that are required to be integrated into this monitoring framework. In this sprint, we have added the particularly support for flow table statistics and corresponding CLI and REST APIs inside ONOS. This is work in progress because there are few more REST APIs and few bugs need to be fixed on the ONOS front. That is one area. The second one is integration of BCP metrics. So we have enhanced the XOS framework to introduce or inject a cron job into the BCP Docker containers that periodically notify about some basic DNS metrics that are available inside the BCP containers. So those cron jobs periodically send these notifications back in framework. And on the other side of the framework, inside Ceilometer, we have added a BCP metrics collector that listens for these notifications from the BCP containers. And currently it stores in the database and is available for the applications on a query basis. So this is another area. The last area is to make this Ceilometer's infrastructure importing into XOS as a multi-tenant service. So currently we have finished implementing the data model, front-ending UI part, and back-end. I'm getting a lot of disturbance, sorry.
You're coming through fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we are done with the implementing data model and front-ending UI part and back-end observers for this service inside the XOS. Currently, we are working on launching inside this container a proxy web server that receives the request from the application and forward it to the backend Ceilometer by applying some configured access control. So this is the currently work in progress user story which we are working on.
Okay, thank you. I presume someone from Siena will provide an update on this?
Sure, we've just been working with ONOS and understanding how I can participate in a large deployment in the Kubernetes deployment specifically, as well as some of the Blue Planet stuff, understanding how that will reach the scale. And so we've got it now where we can run it either in Blue Planet or Kubernetes, doing auto-scale capabilities around the Drake release, things that we'll be planning to do as dynamic clustering becomes available is integrate those changes back into the work that we've done here.
All right. Thank you. I presume this update will be provided by Mingyan.
Yeah, I think update seems right, but it's not. Can you update the material?
Oh, yes, sorry. Here, let me refresh and
yeah.
That, perfect.
Yeah, code is now getting bigger. As you already see, residential code, which is you already did, is original code, and we want to expand the same architecture to mobile code and enterprise code. And our code, which is analytics, and ACORD, which is for security, we can they are used for the common for residential and mobile and enterprise together. For mobile code, we are scheduled to show 2 POCs. One is RAN desegregation, which is Tom is working on together with me, and another is service and mobile edge. That is going to be the first POC for next ONOS 2016. Next one, please. For POC number 1, number 2, we are defining the scope and story of the code, and we are meeting lots of partners. We can provide the solutions, which can be the building blocks of the this scenario. So for the POC 1, which is service and mobile edge, we are considering new feature for this POC, which is disaggregation of eval packet core. We want to decouple user plane and control plane from the eval packet core. And there are some candidate partners we can help us with this. Ericsson can be one of them. And we are thinking about other partners for this ONOS. And we are looking for other partners who can provide us building blocks like this mobile device and traffic generation emulator, and we need virtualized baseband unit and programmable remote radio head and virtualized EPS, and or with decoupled controller and user plane. And we also need lots of virtualized network functions, examples DNS and DPI and video caching services. And the most important thing is that we need to define some required feature from ONOS for this POC. I think we can do that after this EMU planning. Some features should be added to the ONOS, and I need help from core team for this one. And for the POC number 2, this is InnoDB disaggregation. And Sachin from Stanford University has decided to join us with this his project, which is called Southbound. We want to integrate Southbound and core together. This is going to be very big impact on this ecosystem. And we had scheduled the meeting with Intel for this POC 2. We will meet with them every week, and once every Tuesday, and we're going to have a meeting with Guru and Tom and with me. This is it, and most slides I have included for the information. You can go to the next page. This is the overall architecture for this POC, mobile POC. We will have mobile edge and mobile core. We're going to focus on the mobile edge first, which is composed of a virtualized VBU and some service functions like video caching, DNS, and security. And we'll implement eval packet core with decoupled control function and data function, which will be controlled by ONOS. I think we can go on to the next page. And this is the desired architecture of control and data function decoupled eval packet core. As you can see from the picture right-hand side, this is the final architectural destination we want to go. Every mobile operator wants to go this way, and we need more study on this architecture. That's it.
This is great. Thank you, Ian. All right. So for the OPNFV, I think Patrick is gone, but is there somebody to provide an update on this?
Not in this room here.
Yeah. So unfortunately, a lot of the Huawei team are at another event, company event, and so they're not able to provide an update. But there was a significant amount of work done in this area. There were a lot of stories in Jira, and they have all been accomplished. We just need to make sure we mark them as completed. So there's work ongoing in the area of the VTN, as well as some additional work being done on the Southbound for the required OpenFlow extensions. Other than that, I think at high level that should suffice. So I presume James is not there either. This is for the piece of the OPNFV, which is for service function chaining. Again, a lot of the stories have been finished. There are still a number of them that are in progress. Tom, do you want to provide an update on the Yang model?
I saw him earlier. Can someone grab him, or is it?
Tom Tawfik was supposed to provide an update on this area.
I saw him earlier in the.
Okay, well.
Move on and come back to this?
Sure, we can do that. Okay, Mark?
Oh, he just went out. I sent the wrong guy to go fetch Tom.
Tom is having meeting with partners.
Oh, okay.
I am doing I'll send him back.
So we have a deadlock here. What should we do? What do you say?
We have a deadlock. He should be back soon, so maybe we stick with the update.
The next one is SNID.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah, that's good.
Sounds good. Yeah, because I don't have visibility of who's there and who's not, so perfect.
Me neither.
In this sprint, I mainly focus on the writing the native test cases. So far I finished all the test cases collected from Internet to deployment from Baluka, and about 12 cases on both single on-instance and multiple instances. Tested to the ONOS master and the random 3 branch on bare metal, and the few weeks process found one bug of the ONOS and one bug in SDMP due to the recent code change. The second thing is adjusted the Yang to routing to let it work without the BGP, because some of our users send an email to want it to run without BGP, but the Yang to routing was originally designed to work together with BGP. So right now it can only handle the communication among hosts from different subnets inside SDN network. And one issue is recently it couldn't ping the silent host due to the latest code change. This is the fix. So this is in these 2 aspects. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ping Ping.
Can we go back to IP optical?
Yep.
Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Mark. Thanks.
So on the code front, we completed porting to the network config subsystem. The people from ECI Telecom have submitted a few patches for to support OTN multiplexing. We have a new optical driver that follows the spec for that ONF has released for optical extensions exactly, not like the Link one, which was based on drafts and made some shortcuts, if you will. And then in terms of the analysis front, we have more or less completed the analysis of what it means to do ONOS on macro. And we're currently defining some of the services and breaking it down in tasks so we know what to build. And that is it.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Were we able to locate Tom?
No, that's.
I think he's in some meeting or something. I don't know. I could find. If I see him, then we can pull him in.
Okay. There was also done work on a BGP LS provider to be able to detect devices and topology using BGP LS. Do we have Satish online? Probably not, because he's 12 hours away in terms of time zones. So the provider is currently still work in progress. A number of the items have been finished, and there's topology being imported, but still more work to be done. We're not going to go through the individual Jira stories here. So on the Yang side, just let's briefly mention, in absence of Tom here, that there is some work going on to figure out how to have ONOS participate in the overall Yang service, services defined through Yang type of a story. and this is where we're collaborating with AT&T and with Peter Lee to be able to come up with essentially a sort of a proof of concept of that focuses on some fairly narrowly defined services to be able to demonstrate how this mechanism can work with ONOS.
Thomas, I could speak to it just a little bit. I've been on those calls as well.
Perfect.
This is really breaking into a level 3 VPN as an example model, broader Yang setting. So we have a concrete example. We have a broader Yang objective. So Peter's helping us write some models and do that translation for us. I think the interesting thing that's coming out of this, though, where Patrick's going to have is what do we need different from ONOS API? Forget Yang. There's capabilities in the API that he believes he's going to need. So this is really going to turn very quickly into extending ONOS and not purely a Yang modeling question.
Sure.
And part of that has to do with how much visibility you would have at the northbound all the way to the devices. So I understand, not having been involved in those discussions before, that's a pretty fundamental question, I'm sure.
Yeah, so now that you brought up the sort of the use of Yang model on devices, we're also clearly participating in discussions with the OpenConfig team on figuring out how to best use the OpenConfig efforts so that ONOS can support device configuration type activities. And we're slowly beginning to venture in that area. I mean, we've already demonstrated we can configure devices, like, for example, with the ability to set controller, but we want to extend it into other areas. And so we're working with Anis from Google to be able to identify which models would be the best suited for starting that exploration. But one thing I want to point out to make very, very clear that we're using Yang models in two different contexts, and we're treating them as separate context. One is for configuring or orchestrating the devices or network elements, and therefore on a southbound, and that is entirely encapsulated by ONOS driver framework and is insulated, and the fact that we are using Yang model on a south is entirely hidden from view by ONOS's abstractions, the device configuration abstractions. And then and then there's also a separate effort, which this slide is about, which is use of Yang models for the purpose of defining services and consuming services up at the north. And the idea here is that those two are separate efforts, and at least there's no plan on ONOS part to be able to wire those together. And this may be contrary to some expectations, I think, by Peter and others. And so we need to make sure we convey that very, very clearly. So certainly the two efforts can touch. It's just that it won't be Yang all the way throughout. That's the idea. Okay.
So, Thomas, I just forwarded you an email that summarized the conversation that I was involved in.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I think with that, I think we can move to the demo section. And for that, I think I'm going to pass control over to Simon. Simon, are you ready?
Yeah, hang on, just gotta unmute and find my screen.
So I'm going to make you a presenter.
Yeah. Okay. Question is, which screen are you seeing?
I'm seeing the one with a wave in it and a bunch of icons. There we go. Now we can see the ONOS topology.
Okay, great. So just what I wanted to show you, first of all, was the new packet processors view, which you can see is in the platform category of the navigation. This is where we're actually showing the components that are processing packet-ins, I believe. So it shows you the priority, the type of processor it is, the absolute class name of the implementing class, and then we've got a count of the number of packets processed and the average processing time for each packet measured in milliseconds. Actually, the measurement is done in nanoseconds, but it's formatted in milliseconds to make it a little more consumable by the viewer. So not much to show here, I mean, other than the fact that it's here. And
Simon, can I ask why do we have this? What's the use case?
Thomas, can you perhaps field that one?
Sure. Yes. This is just to provide visibility. This information is available through CLI, and the information was there, so we figured we would show it as part of the sort of visibility to the.
We just have a use case. We were just talking about a bug about sending traffic while we're starting ONOS, and we would like to see the proxy out processor, packet processor, how is it processing, how much time is spent processing, causing the problem. So it is useful.
Yeah.
No, I'm not questioning you. I'm just telling you this. There is one. We have an immediate use case.
Okay.
Is it merged, or is it Simon, is this merged that we can use today?
Yep.
Yeah, it's in master.
Okay.
And there's command lines for this as well, and command lines for packet requests as well.
Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to show you was the ability to set friendly names for devices. I don't know if you remember on the topology view, there's a keystroke L which will show you the labels for the devices, and what we can do on the devices table view, if you select one of these items, you get the details panel for that item. Well, now the name at the top here is actually an edit in place. So clicking on here, you can give it a different name and hit enter, and it'll send a message to the server and set the friendly name field on that device. So you can do the same here. And just to show you, if we go back to the topology view and we view the labels, you'll see that these devices have now been renamed. Another little feature is that when you select a device in the topology view, the name here is a hot link to the devices table view with that device selected. So if I click on here, we'll actually go straight to the table, and you can see here, and now you can edit this. Now if you are making a change and you don't like it, you can hit the escape key and it'll restore what it was before. And also if you clear the field and hit enter, it'll revert back to the URI of the device. So there you go, that's my little demo.
Great, thanks, Simon. So I think next we will ask Andrea to give a demonstration on setting the controllers.
Desktop version of the yes, and Thomas is going to set you up to present.
Yes, 1 second. Andrea.
Are you seeing my screen?
Okay, I just made you the presenter, Andrea, so you should be able to hopefully share your screen.
Are you seeing my
Yep.
terminal?
Yes. And if possible, could you move the mic a little bit closer so that we can hear you better?
Yes. Let me also show the slides.
Good. Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay. Hi everybody. With help of Tom and Brian, we implemented the get and set methods for the OpenFlow controllers through OBSDB. Now we have an OBSDB agent that controls an OBSDB database. that's listening on port 6640 of the TCP, and like we have an ONOS instance. We implemented the command device controllers that you can do through CLI in ONOS, and you provide the device ID, and in this case is the second OpenFlow device. And when you do this command, it will establish a connection through the OBSDB agent in order to get the information. And when the connection is established, you can get the OpenFlow controllers for the bridge that you specified. And then we provided the set method, set controllers that when you specify the bridge ID and the TCP controller that you want to set for that bridge. And in this case, when you press enter, it sets in the OBSDB table for that bridge. So you can do also this command through the CLI. Let me show you a demo of this. We have a completely clean ONOS instance. I mean, if you go in ONOS and you do device controllers, OF2. The first time you see there is a slight delay because the connection is not immediate, and if we did not put that delay there, it will say that there is no device found. We will fix that later with probably a asynchronous connection. So you can see we have two controllers here, and if we like to set maybe the only one, we can say set controllers. I have the here. We can say set controllers, and now it shows that before there were two controllers, the TCP and the PTCP one, and now we have only the TCP one. And if we say devices, we can see that the second device is active, available, true, here. Now let's say we set a wrong controller, like on the wrong port, 7001. Before it was this one, now it's the 7001, and if we say devices, the device is not available. We cannot connect to it. So if we want to set it back, we can say set controllers on the 63, and now the device will be available. You can see it here. And if we go to another ONOS instance, the one controlling the second device, second ONOS instance, and we say devices, controllers of this one. The first one, there is that slight delay for the connection we talked before, and then we see that there is the only controller that we set from the other instance ONOS. Now, if we close this one, and also this one, and we reset ONOS, completely. Now I will demonstrate you the thing that if the connection is not there, it will create it. So we can go in a minute machine after it all started. Take some time. Okay.
So the Southbound for set controllers and get controllers was not there in the Huawei implementation?
No, it was not there. So we made it to the CLI command. So we have the new ONOS instance, and if we go in the minute machine and we check the connections, we see there is no OBSDB connection. Sorry, it's a little bit. Here we see there is no OBSDB connection. Now, if we in ONOS we get controllers for device like this. There is a slight delay, and then if we go to Mininet and we check the connections, we see that there is an OVSDB server listening on the 6640. This was done through an annotation that this sets the normal, the standard port and the connection in order to make the connection to the OVSDB controller. Thanks to everyone. This is it.
I have a question. Does this tie at all with our security training? So, because now I can like point into my controller.
Yes, there is no security implemented in this yet. We have to implement the security. We have to fix the delay thing because we set only a delay of 1 second to wait for the connection to be set up. And we also have, like Jono said before, implement or Thomas, I don't remember who was it. We have to implement also other not OVSDB but netconf like to configure the controllers. We have to make some other steps. That will be the next thing we do in the next sprint.
But does it require OVS initially have a connection to the ONOS already through OpenFlow, or you can probe it, right?
Yes.
Even the device is not there, you probe it first by saying set controller.
Yes.
Yes.
Some device.
Yes.
Yes, and that's actually how ONOS, at least in a Huawei's use case, can actually create bridges and remove bridges.
Right.
Exactly. It's very similar to the get set and modify bridges under the Huawei instance if someone took a look at that.
Yeah. So the same OVSDB sort of engine in ONOS is being used to accomplish that. It's just been enhanced to be able to do this particular operation.
We added some methods to the Huawei provided class and modified some of them in order to accomplish what we wanted.
Saurabh, you asked before whether Huawei's implementation could do this. And Huawei's implementation would automatically set it would append the local host's IP as a controller at the time the bridge was created, but there was no way to completely modify the set of controllers or get access to it outside of the provider.
If you want to see the older Huawei implementation, there is a method that's called set controller automatic or set controller auto that does what Huawei did before we implemented our methods.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, thank you, Andrea. I think we can call the demo portion done. And I think with that, we can probably move really quickly to the couple of slides for the CORD sprint. So I'm going to hijack the presentation here.
Do I have to stop?
And so this is just really quick work. I was assuming originally that Patrick was going to be driving this. But
this is from the last sprint demo, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, so we had slides for code in the other slide.
Okay, so okay. That's okay, perfect then. So I guess it's done then. Good. I was thinking, because they were updated recently, I was thinking that Patrick wanted to add additional content. So good. I'm glad it was all done together, because otherwise I was going to question the overlap. All right, so I think with that we can call the 2 sprints done. If you wouldn't mind, make sure that all of the appropriate user stories in Jira have been properly updated. And I'm going to close both of those sprints later today and open new ones so that we can start preparing for this next sprint on Monday. And on Monday, there will be 2 separate meetings for CORD and for ONOS planning. This time we're going to be trying something new for the planning. We're going to try to use Google Hangouts on air. And so the invites have been appropriately updated, and hopefully everything will go nice and smooth. And unless somebody has anything else to add, we can call it done, and everybody have a nice weekend. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.